And joining us now from the Washington Post is Perry Bacon Jr. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Christine O'Donnell, the big star of the week. We've been talking about her for days. Jim DeMint endorsed her early on, and many people are saying that that was a big thing to get her over the finish line, to defeat moderate Mike Castle there in Delaware. You talked to Jim DeMint yesterday. He's not backing down from his endorsements of these conservative candidates, and there's some grumbling from the establishment Republicans in Washington about this.
There was a meeting among the Republicans in the Senate on Wednesday in which Scott Brown sort of spoke out. Scott Brown from Massachusetts spoke out in the meeting, the closed-door meeting, and said he was worried that the room for moderates in the party was like shrinking because of what happened up there. But DeMint came after this meeting and basically said, "I'm doing great. You know, Pat Toomey, who I endorsed over Arlen Specter when Arlen Specter was a Republican, is winning." So DeMint is very defensive, saying, you know, the candidates I'm backing are generally going to win, and I'm fine with that. I'm going to help O'Donnell win. And either way, his argument was that Castle is so Democratic, it doesn't matter. He doesn't want him as part of the Republican Party. So very strident stand.
And what do you think he can gain from this, though? What can DeMint get out of this?
DeMint, I mean, wants a more conservative Senate, so that's one thing. Remember, he said last year he would rather have 30 Jim DeMints than 60 Arlen Specters, or something to that effect. And so he likes that. And plus, I think he's actually, for his own profile, building a profile. I'll be curious to see. He's not saying it yet, but I would not be surprised to see him in Iowa this time next year, you know, campaigning on his own.
Jim DeMint for president. That's quite a thing you float here. I like that. You know, it's interesting, though, with O'Donnell. She had her first debate last night against Chris Coons up in Delaware. And the reviews coming back from the debate was that she actually did quite well. And you start hearing people, you know, who were just writing her off a couple of days ago as impossible to win up there, saying, well, who knows? This is a strange year. Take a look to how she dealt with the question of her own statements that she made back in the 1990s about, of all things, masturbation. And this has gotten a lot of buzz out there. But look how she dealt with the issue last night in the debate.
These questions come from statements I made over 15 years ago. I was in my 20s and very excited and passionate about my newfound faith. But I assure you, my faith has matured, and when I go to Washington, D.C., it'll be the Constitution on which I base all of my decisions, not my personal beliefs.
Is it possible she's been underestimated? I mean, she was certainly underestimated in the primary.
Yes, I think definitely. She sounded last night. One of my colleagues was at the debate, and she sounded a lot more confident of her views and a lot smarter than we've probably, you know, covered her in the way we covered her. That said, she's still fairly far behind in the polls. Chris Coons is fairly well known, and Mike Castle was much more well known in the state than O'Donnell is.
Real quick, she's going to give this speech today in Washington at the Values Voter Summit. How big of a deal is this for her to be down there with, given that roster of other Republicans, top Republicans speaking?
I think it's a big deal. I don't think it's going to help her very much in Delaware. I think she's already sort of broadly known here as a social conservative and a pretty active one. I think that the key is for her to connect with the voters who like Mike Castle, but who also are pretty Democratic leaning, probably voted for President Obama. No, she's got to make herself more palatable to them to win the election.
Great. Perry Bacon, Washington Post, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you, and we'll see you back in Washington, Karen.
Absolutely. John Carl, 3-game series, Phillies Nationals this weekend. Very important.
It's big.
You got to get back down here for this.
Look what they did to the Braves.
That's true. Thanks so much for watching. Tune in tomorrow.
All right, we'll see you.